All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. We've had a ton of you reach out wanting to know what exactly you should do after having unprotected sex.
Yeah, totally understandable. It can be a pretty stressful situation to be in.
For sure. Definitely not something you just, brush off. But good news is we're going to lay it all out for you. So you can kind of have like a roadmap, right?
Exactly. We'll break it down into steps. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about what to do, the less scary it'll feel, right?
Absolutely. So let's dive in. Our listeners want to know what to DO, like action steps. So first things first, let's talk emergency contraception. Most people have heard of Plan B, right?
Right. Plan B or take action, those are common ones. Essentially, they're like a super dose of hormones, kind of similar to what's in birth control pills.
Like a safety net almost.
Exactly. But the sooner the better,
Right.
right? Ideally within 72 hours.
72 hours, so 3 days. Got it. Now, I know there's also Ella, which is, I think, prescription only.
Yeah, you need a prescription for Ella. It actually works a little differently. It blocks a hormone called progesterone.
Progesterone, that's a...
It's essential for pregnancy. So by blocking it, Ella can prevent pregnancy for up to 5 days after unprotected sex.
Wow, 5 days? That's a lot more leeway than the other options.
Right. It's a really good option if it's been a few days.
So, okay, we've got these different types of emergency contraception,
Yeah.
but I'm guessing it's, like, not a good idea to rely on those as your only form of birth control.
Oh, absolutely not. It's really for, emergency situations. Like, think of it as using your spare tire every day. It works in a pinch, but it's not meant for regular use.
Right, makes total sense. And another thing, none of those options protect against STIs.
You got it. Which brings us to our next step, testing, right?
Okay, so STI testing. This is something I think a lot of people have questions about, like, why even get tested if you don't have any symptoms? Like, if everything feels fine, why bother?
Yeah, it's a good question. And some STIs are tricky. You can have them and not even know it, no symptoms at all, but that doesn't mean they're not, potentially causing problems.
Wow, so, like, you could have something and be totally clueless.
Exactly. And that's why regular testing is so important. It helps catch things early when they're easier to treat.
Okay, that makes sense. So what about the tests themselves? Is it like one standard test for everything?
I wish it were that simple. It really depends on what they're looking for. Some tests are urine tests, some are blood tests, and some use swabs.
So it's kind of a case-by-case thing, depending on what you're being tested for?
Exactly. A healthcare provider can help determine which tests are right for you.
All right, STI testing check.
Yeah.
Next up, I think we got to address the elephant in the room, right? Pregnancy.
Yep, definitely a big one.
So pregnancy tests. Those at-home ones are pretty popular, but how accurate are they really? Like, can you trust them?
They're generally very accurate, especially the digital ones. The key is timing. You see, they work by detecting a certain hormone.
Okay, so the hormone. What about it?
Well, it increases during pregnancy, but it takes a few weeks to build up to a level those tests can pick up.
Ah, so you could test too early and get a false negative.
Exactly. That's why if you test too soon, it's best to retest after a few weeks. And of course, if it's positive, definitely see a doctor.
Makes sense. It's interesting because the source material we're working from also mentions some other symptoms to look out for. Things like unusual discharge, painful urination, or sores. Those are all kind of red flags, right?
Absolutely. Now, while those symptoms could be from other things, they can also be signs of an STI. So the best thing to do is see a doctor. If you notice anything off, unusual for you, don't wait.
Don't wait. Just go get it checked out. Totally.
Yeah.
So we've talked about what to do immediately after unprotected sex, but now let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about long-term birth control. This is where we kind of move from reactive to proactive, right?
Love that. Taking control of your sexual health, feeling empowered, that's what it's all about. And you've got so many options these days. Pills, IUDs, implants, condoms, the list goes on.
It really does. Now, I've heard of IUDs and implants, but could you maybe, like, break those down a bit? How do they actually work?
Sure. So an IUD, it's a little tiny device shaped like a T. It goes right into your uterus, and depending on the type, it can prevent pregnancy for years.
Wow, years. That's amazing.
Right. Then there's implants. Those are tiny rods. They go under the skin in your arm, and they can last for 3 to 5 years.
So both of those are kind of like set it and forget it.
Yeah, pretty much. Highly effective and low maintenance, much less to think about than taking a pill every day.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And with all these different methods, it seems like people can really find what works best for them,
Yeah.
their lifestyle, their preferences.
Totally. And remember, some methods, like condoms, they offer double protection. They protect against pregnancy and the STIs.
Right. Condoms are the MVP. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of our roadmap here. After unprotected sex, first line of defense is emergency contraception. Then, make sure you get tested for STIs. If there's a chance of pregnancy, take a home test after a few weeks, and if it's positive, go see your doctor. Now, we have to say, we're not doctors, right?
Exactly. Think of this as your starting point. For personalized advice, always talk to your healthcare provider. They can guide you through all the options and help you make the best choices for you.
Absolutely. So after all this info, what's one thing you're going to do to feel better, to take care of yourself?
What step will give you peace of mind?
Remember, you got this. Take charge of your health.
We're here to support you.
Thanks for tuning in.